For 4 years, the golf world has been torn apart by a civil war that seemed to have no end in sight. Hundreds of millions of dollars were spent. Reputations were shattered. Alliances were broken. The sport was fractured in ways that no one ever imagined. But now the Saudi money has stopped. The kingdom's public investment fund has officially pulled the plug on LIV Golf after the 2026 season. The league is scrambling to find new investors. And the players who once thought they had secured their financial futures are suddenly desperate to come home. Representatives for multiple LIV stars have already contacted the PGA Tour to discuss a potential return. The golf world is in meltdown, and the battle lines have been drawn. When LIV Golf launched in 2022, it promised to revolutionize the sport. Armed with billions of dollars from Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, it poached some of the biggest names in professional golf: Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, Jon Rahm, and Cameron Smith. The contracts were astronomical, totaling an estimated $1 billion just in signing bonuses. The prize money was unprecedented, $30 million per regular season tournament. The model was simple: spend whatever it took to compete with the PGA Tour. But behind the glitz and glamour, the math never added up. According to Money in Sports, LIV had spent approximately $5.3 billion by early 2025, and the total was expected to exceed $6 billion by the end of the year. The league was hemorrhaging money at an unsustainable rate, and the investors were losing patience. On April 30th, 2026, the other shoe finally dropped. The Public Investment Fund announced it would withdraw its financial backing at the end of the season. The substantial investment required by LIV Golf over a longer term is no longer consistent with the current phase of PIF's investment strategy, the statement read. Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the PIF governor who had been the driving force behind the league, was no longer listed as the chairman. The league that had once threatened to tear the PGA Tour apart was now on life support. LIV Golf's leadership scrambled to respond. CEO Scott O'Neill announced the league was transitioning to a diversified, multi-partner investment model and was seeking $300 million to $350 million in new funding. A new independent board was established, led by Gene Davis and John Zinman. But the questions were impossible to ignore. Who would invest in a league that had just lost its financial backbone? And how could LIV possibly survive without the Saudi billions? As the news of PIF's withdrawal spread, the phones at PGA Tour headquarters started ringing. Representatives for multiple LIV Golf players contacted the tour to discuss a potential return. The desperation was palpable. These were players who had once boasted about their guaranteed money, their freedom, and their rebellion against the establishment. Now, they were begging to come home. Johnson Wagner, a CBS sports analyst, confirmed the conversations. He revealed that he spoke with an LIV player in his hometown of Charlotte who was trying to make his way back to the PGA Tour. Wagner also predicted that LIV Golf would absolutely crumble in August, adding, "It'll be done." The players' options were limited. Brooks Koepka had already returned under the returning member program, paying a $5 million charitable donation and accepting severe restrictions. Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Cameron Smith were offered the same pathway, but declined. Patrick Reed, who didn't renew his contract with LIV, was serving a 1-year suspension on the DP World Tour while trying to regain his PGA Tour card. For those who had signed long-term contracts, the situation was even more complicated. Many of the players who defected to LIV signed multi-year deals with ironclad terms. They were legally bound to the league, even as its financial future crumbled. But the contracts also meant they couldn't simply walk away. They had to wait for their deals to expire or hope that LIV would release them. The irony was staggering. The players who had left the PGA Tour for guaranteed money were now trapped by the very contracts that had once seemed like a dream. The PGA Tour has made it clear that returning LIV players will face a steep price for their rebellion. The returning member program, the pathway that Brooks Koepka used, was a one-time, defined window that has now expired. The Tour is not expected to renew it, meaning any future reinstatement will come with significantly more restrictive terms than Koepka faced. According to reports, the Tour will likely sort returning LIV players into separate categories based on their circumstances. Players who never held PGA Tour membership will be treated differently from those who resigned their membership. And the 11 players who joined the antitrust lawsuit against the PGA Tour, including Phil Mickelson and Bryson DeChambeau, are expected to face additional scrutiny. Bryson DeChambeau, in particular, presents a unique challenge. He was part of the group that filed the antitrust suit against the Tour, which generated intense animosity among those who stayed and cost the Tour vast sums of money before the litigation was dropped. He also declined the returning member program offer, choosing to remain with LIV. His potential return hinges on what the membership wants. "It's really about if the membership wants me back," DeChambeau said. "I don't even think it's Brian Rolapp or anybody like one of the top executives. It's really if the players want me back, and if not, then I understand that." PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolapp has been characteristically diplomatic. He told ESPN's Rich Eisen, "I think it's natural there's a lot of people trying to figure out what their future might look like." But he also emphasized that the Tour is focusing on its own future. "For us, it's business as usual until the dust settles." The PGA Tour locker room has been divided over how to handle the potential return of LIV players. Some have called for forgiveness. Others demand punishment. Brian Harman, the 2023 Open champion, expressed a measured view. "I would think that the fans want everyone to be playing together, and time heals all wounds," Harman said. "There's still some sentiment out here, especially with all the lawsuit stuff. That stuff's going to be tough to get past. We play with all those guys in the majors, so yeah, I think there should be a path back." Lucas Glover was more forceful. "Human beings are human beings," Glover said. "I kind of live by that. You treat everybody the same until they give you a reason not to. I have respect for people and golfers because they're people first and my peers second. I will never begrudge anybody for making a decision for the betterment of their career, their life, whatever that may be. But do I think they should abide by the pathways back and pay the same penalties that the previous people have paid? Absolutely." Jordan Spieth, the three-time major winner, acknowledged the complexity of the situation. "I know olive branches were given out a couple months ago. Brooks took them up on it," Spieth said. "So I'm not sure what would now change. But I think if there's a system for Brooks and a system for Patrick Reed, does that stay the same for guys in the same category as those two coming back, or does it change now? Does it change for guys who sued and dropped their membership?" Tom Watson, the 8-time major winner, has been the most vocal critic of any leniency. "If I was commissioner, that's what I would do," Watson said. "I'd say if you're finished with your contract with LIV Golf, if you want to play the PGA Tour again, you come back, and you must play the Korn Ferry Tour for a year to qualify for it." The financial penalties for returning LIV players are expected to be steep. Brooks Koepka agreed to a $5 million charitable contribution, gave up FedEx Cup bonus money for 2026, and will be ineligible for the PGA Tour's Player Equity Program for 5 years. The Tour estimated players in Koepka's position could miss out on between $56 million and $91 million in potential earnings. For players like DeChambeau and Rahm, who declined the returning member program, the terms could be even harsher. They may face larger fines, longer restrictions, and additional layers of punishment for their role in the antitrust lawsuit. Some Tour members have suggested that players who sued the PGA Tour should face even steeper consequences. The 11 players who joined the antitrust suit, including Mickelson, DeChambeau, and Reed, are expected to face additional scrutiny. While the lawsuit was dropped, the damage was done. The litigation cost the PGA Tour vast sums of money and created deep divisions within the locker room. Patrick Reed, who didn't renew his LIV contract, is currently serving a 1-year suspension and playing on the DP World Tour in hopes of regaining his PGA Tour card. His situation is a reminder that not all returning players will receive the same treatment. The PGA Tour is facing a reckoning unlike any in its history. The collapse of LIV Golf has created an opportunity to reunify the sport, but the path forward is fraught with tension. The players who stayed are demanding accountability. The players who left are desperate for a way back, and the tour is caught in the middle. The questions now are impossible to ignore. Will the PGA Tour welcome back the LIV defectors, and at what cost? Can the sport ever truly heal the wounds caused by the Saudi money? And what does the collapse of LIV Golf say about the future of professional golf? One thing is certain, the battle is far from over, and the golf world will be watching every move.